think I got my swagger back.
This video was sponsored by MMOCS. Buy cheap NBA 2K MT at MMOCS.com. Use my promo code PACG and you can get a 5% discount. What's up, Pack Nation? It is Pack here, and today I want to talk about the players that are gonna win which awards in the NBA. There is the MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, Most Improved Player, Coach of the Year. There's so many awards they give out every single year, and I wanted to talk about which players are gonna win which awards. I'm talking about this specifically because the All-Star break has just ended and we're already more than halfway into the season, so I'm really curious to see what it's been looking like so far. I know this might change by the end of the season, but we'll make another version of that when that time comes. So before this video starts, be an OG, join the Pack Nation, and subscribe. How I'm making this video is I'm simulating the rest of the season, so I'm doing start today and seeing which players 2K thinks will win which awards. Let's get this video started with the MVP. According to NBA 2K19, James Harden. Ignore those stats below. We're not going to look at those stats. We're going to look at the stats he has currently. James Harden is averaging 37 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, while also getting 2 steals a game, which is more than usual for James Harden, for someone who doesn't play defense. Now, this is why James Harden is being considered to be the MVP of the NBA. First, their team isn't bad. The Rockets are actually doing pretty good. If you remember the beginning of the season, they were one of the worst teams in the West, and then James Harden was like, no, and he put the team on his back, and he's leading them to one of the better teams in the West now. Not only that, James Harden is missing his 2 other best players, Chris Paul and Clint Capella. I know that Chris Paul just came back, but Chris Paul was out for most of the season, so that's a pretty big deal to be able to bring your team all the way back up to 4th or 5th seed while missing some of your best players. And they cut Carmelo Anthony. It was all Melo's fault, basically. He's doing some record-breaking stats. The most games with 30 points in a row since Wilt Chamberlain. That's literally ridiculous to do. The beard should be feared because he's doing ridiculous right now. I believe he really should be MVP. But this guy, you know, he has competition. Let's start with Giannis Antetokounmpo, the human alphabet. He's on the Bucks, who have the best record in the NBA right now. So the best player on the team with the best record in the NBA already should be in the conversation for MVP. Giannis is getting 27 points per game, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and a block, which is all insane. He's even playing amazing defense too. There's some legitimate reasons why you could consider Giannis one of the best players or the best player in the NBA. Not only that, I also believe Giannis is leading the league in dunks. So Giannis Antetokounmpo is ridiculous, but he's not breaking records the way that James Harden is, and that's why I lean more to James Harden in that situation. Another player that we need to consider is Paul George. First, Paul George has one of the better records in the NBA, and he's also in the West, so just like kind of James Harden is also. He is the best player on OKC right now, which is impressive considering Russell Westbrook is on the team, and Russell Westbrook is almost averaging a triple-double. Paul George is also having his best season easily. I think he's averaging 28 points per game, and he's even being considered for Defensive Player of the Year. But those things are not the same as breaking records in the NBA, and that's what James Harden is doing. That's why I have to pick James Harden. I'm sorry about anybody else who thinks someone else should be MVP. I know the leading race right now in the Kia ladder is Giannis, but James Harden is ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. I have to stick with James Harden. Now, at Rookie of the Year, it is easily Luka Doncic. Of course it's Luka Doncic. That's not even close. No one else is even close to Luka Doncic. First of all, he's on a team that shouldn't even be close to the playoffs, and they're trying to fight for a playoff spot still. Luka Doncic is playing in his first year, getting about 20 points per game, 7 rebounds, I think, and like also 7 assists or 8 assists or 6 assists, something like that. Crazy numbers, LeBron James type numbers without the scoring, obviously. Luka Doncic in his first season ever is doing fantastic. I really thought that Luka Doncic was gonna suck when he entered the NBA. I'm not even gonna lie. And I was so wrong. He's so good, it's ridiculous. Now, the options, I'll throw in one name that I believe could maybe, not even maybe, but should be at least mentioned. It's Trae Young. First of all, he's shooting less efficiently, he's scoring less, but I'll give him this. He's averaging 8 assists a game on a pretty bad team. Besides that, there's like nothing, there's not even close. It's obviously Luka Doncic. Now for Sixth Man of the Year, Dennis Schroeder. I believe this is the closest battle yet. Dennis Schroeder right now is considered 6th man of the year by NBA 2K19, and let me tell you why. He is averaging 16 points per game right now in the NBA as a bench player. Now, he's doing worse field goal percentage wise than last season when he played for the Hawks, and he had a great season with the Hawks last season, but he's having a much better 3-point field goal percentage than ever in his career. Dennis Schroeder has really stepped up in that part of his game. He's currently on a playoff team. That always helps when it comes to 6th man of the year awards. I'm not saying you can't win 6th man of the year when you're not in the playoffs, but it helps. And he is scoring as well as he did last year. I know he's scoring less points per game, but if you did per 36, he's averaging just the amount as the year before and the year before that. He's been consistent and he's still playing great for the Thunder. And that's really necessary on this team because they really don't have the greatest bench, and he's the only guy that really can do anything off the bench. So he's such an important piece for this team. But Dennis Schroeder does have 2 players that can be competition for him. The options or the competition for 6th man of the year first is Derrick Rose. Yes, first of all, he's not a starter. He is a bench player and considered for 6th man of the year. Let me give you some reasons. First, I'll give a negative towards Derrick Rose. His team probably is not making the playoffs. But besides that, which is like the biggest knock against him, but besides that, first is that he's having an amazing comeback for his career. This is his 2nd best scoring season ever. Derrick Rose, the former MVP, is having his 2nd best scoring performance ever compared to at least the minutes amount played. I know points per game he's scoring less, but if you do per 36, he's having one of the best scoring seasons ever. He scored 50 points in one game this season. A 6th man did that. He's dramatically improved his 3-point field goal percentage, just like Dennis Schroeder. Derrick Rose is back. Just the fact that this guy's been through so many injuries and he fought his way back and still made it back and doing so good, that alone deserves an award. He's won so much. The only things he's missing in his career is an NBA championship and a 6th man of the year, and he could win that one. But there is one other player I need to mention for 6th man of the year. I can't disrespect this man, Domantas Sabonis. 14 points per game, 9 rebounds, but he's only playing 25 minutes a game. That's the thing about Domantas Sabonis that nobody's talking about. He's not playing a lot of minutes and he's doing amazing. He is the best player on the team probably because Victor Oladipo was injured, and he's the 6th man. That's how good he is right now. 2K wise, he has the highest rating on the Pacers, and somehow the Pacers are 3rd in the East without Oladipo still, and a big part of that is because Domantas Sabonis is playing so good. On paper, I feel like it should be Sabonis because he's leading his team as the 6th man, but Dennis Schroeder is so important to the team, but Derrick Rose's story is the best. So it's like my heart is telling me I gotta pick Derrick Rose. I know that Schroeder and Sabonis have their reasons, and it could go any way, but I'm picking Derrick Rose for my personal opinion. Defensive Player of the Year has basically already been picked, but right now Anthony Davis is being considered in NBA 2K19 as Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know why, because he hasn't been considered anywhere else, especially because of all that's happened with the Lakers and being wanting to be traded and they're not even gonna play him anymore really, or they're barely playing him. So ignore Anthony Davis for the most part. He's not going to win any awards this season. There's only 2 players that are really considered, and even then it's really 1. I believe Paul George will win Defensive Player of the Year, best perimeter defender in the league, leading the league in steals. Just eye test wise, he's just clamping people up. I don't really see why anybody else would win. Miles Turner's been playing good defense too, but for the most part, I'd pick Paul George. Now for the most improved player of the year, and according to 2K, it's Buddy Hield. However, I think this one could be really debated, and I even think there's one player that most people think is the most improved player of the year, so let's just talk about that real quick. So, Buddy Hield, I understand why they think Buddy Hield should be the most improved player of the year. Statistically, improved, not ridiculously, but improved. The Kings are doing really solid this season and could even make the playoffs, maybe. And Buddy Hield has been the 2nd best player on this team and one of the better 3-point shooters in the NBA right now. Literally completely changed his game and is in the prime of his career right now. Buddy Hield definitely should be considered for most improved player of the year. The other option is the other Kings player, the best player on the Kings, De'Aaron Fox. When you look at stats and increasing stats, he has a much more ridiculous increase than Buddy Hield. De'Aaron Fox compared to last season is so much better. And he's the best player on this team. He's leading the Kings. That's why you probably should argue maybe De'Aaron Fox is the most improved player of the year. I would even argue probably could be, or on paper he is, right? But there's one player that I think most people are already picked on their heads is most improved player of the year, and that is Pascal Siakam. I believe he's the third leading scorer on the Toronto Raptors, one of the best teams in the NBA, one of the best defensive teams. Pascal Siakam statistically is a completely different player, so it's a pretty tight battle between these three. I would pick Pascal Siakam. I know that there's still a lot more other options like Spencer Dinwiddie, D'Angelo Russell, even Derrick Rose. There's players that you could argue, but I have to pick Pascal Siakam, especially because how well their team is doing, and he's such an important part of that. It has to be Pascal Siakam. And finally, the last award is Coach of the Year. So 2K is always going to pick Steve Kerr every single day of the week, but realistically, I think it should be Mike Budenholzer for a lot of reasons. First, that team is the #1 team in the NBA, but they have a good team. So Steve Kerr's considered because his team is amazing and they're doing well. But of course they're doing well when they're amazing. You can make that same argument with the Bucks. They have a really good team. Like, the Bucks seriously have good players. They're being coached correctly, that's why they're succeeding, but they have great players. The Raptors, they also have a great team, but this coach is a brand new coach to the NBA, Nick Nurse. So that's why you're like, well, maybe Nick Nurse should be Coach of the Year because this is his first year in the NBA and he's doing so well. But he also has a good team. Mike Malone, though, is like, well, you have a good team, but not the stars that all these other teams are having. Mike Malone for the Nuggets only has Jokic, and everyone else is just like a good player. Shouldn't he be considered Coach of the Year? So there's all these like, well, and in reality, I think it should be David Fizdale because he's helping us get Zion, baby. He's my Coach of the Year. Let's go. No, but if I were to have to pick all the coaches in the NBA, I think Mike Budenholzer has earned it. It's a good team, and he's coaching them correctly, and he has the best record in the NBA. I'd give it to Mike Budenholzer. What do you guys think? Do you agree with 2K or disagree? Leave it in the comments below. And if you like my channel, give it a sub, and I'll see you guys next time.
I think I got my swagger back.